Welcome y'all to Restored Geeks. Here, our ethos is to help people see God's fingerprint within the media arts culture or geek culture. From video games, movies, TV shows, anime, all of that. Comic books, fiction stories, all of that. And for this one, this is part 3 of our Sopranos deep analysis from a biblical perspective. We're on part 3 where we're doing from season 4, episode 3 on to the finale. So if you have not seen the first 2 parts of this series, then we recommend going and listening to those. Before we get into this, we're going to give both a content and spoiler warning. The content warning, mostly for our fellow Christians. The Sopranos is a very hard R-rated show where there's plenty of profanity, there's plenty of sex and nudity, and disturbing violence within it. So if that is something that you are sensitive to, then we recommend that you don't watch it. We also don't recommend that you watch this video because we are going to get into some disturbing topics. Same thing with the other 2 parts. And then we're also going to get to spoiler warnings as well. So, yeah, if you don't want the show spoiled, then we recommend going and watching the show if you can handle it, and then coming back and listening to these videos. We recommend that this is a show that we recommend to people that are like us who really enjoy like really good television and movies, TV shows, or video games, all that. So, yeah, if you want to see one of the best TV shows out there ever made, then we definitely recommend it. With all that being said, let's now get into part 3 of this deep analysis, where we left off with season 4, episode 3. Which,
what if I don't want it spoiled and I can't watch it? What am I?
An idiot. Let's go.
Yep.
Yeah. What? Anyway. So we left off with season 4, episode 3, which this is a very political episode, where a Native American where it's Columbus Day, and this is also the most downvoted episode of the entire show because I guess of the political nature of it. So Native American protesters on Columbus Day creates tension between the Italians and Native Americans. Because the Native Americans, obviously, they see Christopher Columbus as a horrible, like, colonizer when he came over here and kind of, like, took away their culture, tried to force them to go by his culture. And, Columbus was also apparently Italian, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And the Italian Americans, they feel like, Tony and them, they feel like they're being, persecuted against, I guess, because of this. So there's this like weird political tension throughout it. Me personally, the way that I see it is I do think Columbus was a terrible person from what I've read about him.
Yeah.
I don't care about celebrating Columbus Day because of that. He didn't even really discover the Americans. He more discovered the Bahamas and all that, but yeah, but at the same time, I also think the way that the Native Americans were going about it on this episode was pretty
stupid as well.
Well, rough, because they were kind of very mean-spirited to, like, the Italian Americans and Tony and them. And
yeah, like, don't blame an entire culture for what one person did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I agree with that. There's also one scene in this episode where, like, Hesh and another dude gets into it because Hesh is Jewish. And the dude that he gets into it with says that the Holocaust was like fake. And Hesh goes on, he's like, no, man, you're being anti-Semitic. And they get in this whole argument on his farm ranch. And it is very interesting. And then toward the end of the episode, Tony won a car ride. I forgot exactly what they were doing, but he was in it. Silvio was driving and they were on a car ride. Tony goes on a rant to Silvio about being the strong, silent type and not being a victim, not playing the victim, and because this is a running theme throughout it. Because we forgot to bring this up that Tony, I forgot the type of people he brings up, but he's for like the strong.
It was one person from like a movie.
Yeah, the strong, stoic type, where. Like you can't show emotion, you can't,
yeah, you're not supposed to show emotion, you're supposed to just let it hit you and bounce off.
Yeah, you basically suffer in silence. Which I do think is part of why he has so much stress that he has throughout this entire show. Not the main reason, but one of the many reasons. We then get to episode 4 of season 4, where Johnny Sack gets offended about a very out-of-pocket joke that Ralphie says about his wife.
Offended is an understatement.
Yes. I mean, he tries to get a hit on Ralph and creates tension with him and Tony's gang because of it throughout this episode. He even hears a guy, I forgot what exactly, like the guy made the joke again. Not Ralphie, but it was another guy when he was at a bar, and he walks out and beats the dude to, like almost.
Yeah, it was one of the guys that was with Ralph when he made the joke.
Yeah, he walks out into the parking lot and beats the dude half to death because of the joke. Because Johnny Sack's wife is, big, so
Chunky.
Yeah, it's chunky, and she has problems with her weight, and so, and she's very sensitive about it, and there is like a very touching scene where
Catches her down in like chocolate.
Down in the basement, like hiding chocolate and just like cakes and candy and all that.
Yeah,
and he tells her something like, "Did I put the standard on you to be thin?" Or something like that, like it. All that matters is what I think is that I love you.
Yeah,
and that was a very touching scene. I think, because especially coming from somebody as hardened and psychopathic as Johnny Sack is. Like he loves us. He obviously has love for his family.
Yeah,
Johnny Sack does, but he's a raging psychopath throughout this. Show.
His whatever you call it is worse, though, but...
What? Oh, his, like, right-hand man?
Yeah.
Yep. Later on in this episode, Furio decides to make a permanent stay in New Jersey, and Carmela, we'll get to that. Carmela likes it a bit too much, because Carmela starts getting feelings for Furio. We then get to episode 5 of season 4, where Tony gets into a horse racing business and buys a horse called Pie Oh My. Remember where Ralphie...
I thought it was Ralph who got into the business, and Tony, being the boss, had to come check it out.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Ralph got into the business, but I'm pretty sure like him and Ralph both bought the horse.
They started to work together on keeping its upkeep, but Ralph being Ralph.
Yeah, and so Tony gets very, like, not connected. Close, yeah.
He gets very close to the horse. And because
throughout the show, he has a lot of, like, weird connections with animals.
Yeah, and, well, this isn't a spoiler for later on. It's because, as Dr. Melfi said all the way back in season 1, he views them as his kids.
Yeah. He views them as his kids. He doesn't want to. Whenever he loses them, it reminds him of losing his kids or something.
Yeah.
Like that. So, and then Adriana becomes increasingly torn between being loyal to Christopher and the FBI trying to use her to get information.
Yeah,
she's complicit with them, but she's completely torn.
I think this is also around the time she starts to look to marriage because she saw a movie that said that she couldn't testify against him.
Yeah, was this also the episode where Carmela and all the girls, like, they have, like, movie nights or whatever, and she sees a movie with it, and Adriana gets up crying and leaves?
Yeah. And they were trying to ask her what was wrong, and she wouldn't answer.
Yeah. We then get to episode 6 of season 4, where Gloria commits suicide by hanging herself on a chandelier. Tony, throughout this episode, blames himself for it, and all throughout this episode, he starts overcompensating with like the people in his life, to try and make them feel better, because he doesn't want that to happen to anybody else.
This is also the only time that I've seen that I've literally just said, Dr. Melfi, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Because he goes to see her and explains it to her, and the first words out of her mouth was, well, what type of person was Gloria?
Yeah.
Are you surprised?
Yeah. It was a pretty hard, like, calloused answer. But, yeah. And then Artie starts trying to get into what Tony is doing. And, yeah. So, correct me if I'm wrong. So, there was this guy that he goes after at the end of this episode. He owed Artie money, right?
Yeah, no, he owed I guess he did owe Artie money, and Artie was going to give it to Tony because he owed Tony money.
Yeah.
But then he goes and tries to beat this guy up, realizes he's a weakling, and this dude like beats the crap out of him.
Yeah. Yeah. Artie fails in trying to like get money out of him.
And then he tries to take pills.
Yeah, he tries to commit suicide. He calls Tony about it, and Tony calls the ambulance on him to stop it. So, like, yeah, this whole episode has this theme of, like, suicide on it. And how Tony how a lot of it is Tony's fault.
Oh, yeah.
Tony's influence. He's destroying these people.
He even calls Tony out on it.
Yeah.
Like, while he was medicated, he's like, this is what you wanted, isn't it?
Yeah. And Tony even gets mad at him while he's in the hospital bed. And all that. And we then get to episode 7 of season 4, where Paulie finally gets out of jail, because Paulie was in jail the entire time, ever since he got arrested a few episodes back, is very distraught that Tony didn't even remotely go to him.
Yeah.
And all that. And he starts to feel like he's like lower level on the totem pole of the entire DeMio family. Tony tries to then buy houses within like the projects, but finds out that there's like squatters living in them, and he starts to hires someone who sends like gangs after him to
they go in with like Tommy guns and just start shooting everything.
Then later on in this episode, Tony finds out that one of his ex-girlfriends, it was Irina. Irina is sleeping with Zillman. And at first he's like, I don't care. Who cares? Like, I broke up with her a long time ago. But the episode ends with him busting into the house, and he whips Zellman with a belt.
Yeah.
Because he sees, like, his ego is so big that he sees he's the only one that can be with Irina. Like,
partially, but it's the other thing as well. When he got rid of Irina, he basically treated her like a daughter and told her to get out of this. And now she was with Zellman.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. They get to episode 8 of season 4. Tony commits adultery with one of Ralph's ex-girlfriends, and there's like a scene where one of her.
Oh yeah, this girl.
Is it Valentina?
Yes.
Valentina, yeah. Valentina. Her name is Valentina, and she leaves one of her fingernails on his like shirt, and Carmela finds it.
Yeah.
But she doesn't really say anything after she finds it. But this starts a thing that we're going to get to later, which was one of the most uncomfortable
things I have ever seen. Yeah.
Ralph then, oh gosh, oh boy, okay, disturbing content warning. Janice starts to spill the beans on Ralph's masochistic sex life, where he can't get off.
He can't get off unless he's doing certain things like pull up. But anyway, we'll continue.
He basically can't get off unless he wires jumper cables to his balls, and then stuff like that. Yeah. It's really, really disturbing.
And what's
fun out.
Now, the only funny part about it is Tony basically responds to this like, yeah, that's Ralph.
Yeah, well, he has an interesting a conversation with Dr. Melfi.
Yeah.
Dr. Melfi, I think, tells him something like, some people, through childhood trauma, they can't get off unless they're, like, hurting themselves.
Yeah.
Except unless they're like in pain and all that. And then we start getting like scenes of Paulie taking care of his own mother, which we'll get to that later. In the show. We then get to episode 9 of season 4, where one of Ralph's sons gets shot with an arrow.
Yeah.
And he gets sent to the hospital. We actually get to see Ralph emotional.
Yeah, because his son He got hit with the arrow and became completely unconscious.
Yes. Yeah, we actually get to see Ralph actually like show emotion and show that he cares about somebody. But Ralph ends up burning the horse stable and burning with the Pile My horse that him and Tony owned.
Well,
Tony had a connection with.
Yeah, it's because the horse was getting sick and needing things.
Yeah.
And then Ralph got fed up with dealing with it while dealing with his kid in the hospital, so he burned the stable down, which killed the horse.
Yep. And then Tony shows up angry at Ralph's house.
Oh, God, here we go.
And they get into a very crazy fight.
Well, we say crazy, but it's a very realistic fight. That's why it's disturbing to watch.
Yeah, and Tony ends up killing him.
Yeah, Tony chokes him to death and then calls Chris to come chop him up.
Yeah, basically take him to the meat shop, grind him up, and dispose of him. Yep. We get to episode 10 of season 4, where Christopher accidentally kills Adriana's dog by sleeping on him.
Because he was high again.
Yeah, because he was using heroin again.
Yep.
And
was this that stupid, the absolutely dumb...
This was the episode where they have the intervention on.
He's just like, screw you all.
And Silvio's intervention note thing was just, I watched you puke. Disgusting. And Chris is like, F you, man. And then when Tony finds out that he killed Adriana's dog, because of what just happened to his horse, Tony's like, I ought to kill you right now.
Yeah.
And so they all start getting into a fight, and then
I feel bad for the dog, though.
Yeah, and then the intervention person has to like break all of it up.
Yeah.
And then later on in
I wonder what the intervention person was thinking, sitting there in a room with like 6 known criminals.
Yeah, exactly. Tony then asked Dr. Melfi in one of the therapy sessions in this episode, what kind of God allows what is happening to happen?
Yeah.
So it's the problem of suffering.
Yeah, the same thing happened in season 1 when Big John died. Was it Big John?
Or no, not Big John. What's his name? Jackie Sr.
Yeah, Jackie Sr. died, and he says, what kind of God allows this crap?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the problem with suffering, and it's a very, very deep topic that takes a lot of time to answer.
Yeah.
So we recommend going and checking out like Frank Turek or who else? Who else does?
Mike Winger has a good one on it. Or he does.
Yeah.
Spoiler, he does just kind of chop it up to you just don't understand it yet.
Yeah. But
he explains it a lot better.
Yeah, if you want to understand like Christianity and how we answer to the problem of suffering, we recommend going and checking out their those two guys' teachings on it. And what's his name? William Lane Craig.
Yeah, William Lane Craig
has really good stuff on it as well. Chris then abuses Adriana while he's high on heroin later on in the episode, and Tony forces him to check into a rehabilitation.
Yeah, he tells him you either check in there or you're done.
Yeah.
And as far as we've figured out in the show, when he says you're done, it means done, life, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Episode 11, we then get to episode 11 of season 4, where Tony starts having like very weird dreams that start hitting a bit too close for comfort for him. I forgot exactly what these dreams. This wasn't the coach dream.
No, it wasn't the coach dream.
But I forgot exactly what the details were. But they start making him like question things that are going on in his life. Yeah. So Anthony Jr. engages in a weird like seance with I think it was a Ouija board or something.
Yes.
With Salvatore's kids, which is something that we as Christians recommend staying away from, because we do believe that there is a spiritual realm that has demons that you can open yourself up to in it.
You don't need a Ouija board for it, by the way. Just stay away from trying.
Yes, stay away from the seances, any type of mysticism. We recommend staying away from that. But Tony and not Adriana, Carmela scold AJ for doing this to the kids when their dad
has disappeared.
Disappeared. Yeah.
Disappeared. Yeah.
And into the ocean.
He's sleeping with the fishes.
Yep. Tony then decides like he's going to stop therapy with Dr. Melfi because he like feels like he doesn't need it anymore at this point. We then get to episode 12 of season 4 where Tony and Furio are out like doing business and they're near an airplane. And Furio contemplates throwing Tony into the airplane propeller.
Yeah, because he's fallen in love with Carmela.
Carmela, yeah. And he even goes, there's even a scene where he goes to Italy and he talks to one of the Dons over in Italy.
Yep.
And he says that he's in love with a woman and the guy's like, okay, well then why don't you like get with her? And he's like, there's a problem. It's the Don's wife. And then that guy's like, come again?
That guy's like, yeah, you get rid of those feelings.
Yeah, yep. Then after this, Furio then decides that he's going to permanently leave for Italy, and that we don't ever see him again in the show.
He permanently leaves after they break up.
Yeah.
Or after the divorce scene.
Yeah.
And that's when Tony finds out about him. He realizes they found out, and then he goes to Italy and stays.
Okay, never mind. No, he goes to Italy, then he talks to the Don. That's why.
Yeah, he comes back.
Yeah. Paul, oh gosh.
When he comes back, that's when he stops coming in.
Yeah. We then get a very disturbing scene with Paulie that made me want to go through the screen at Paulie. One of his mother's friends catches him. Yeah.
Is this where he's trying to figure out why they won't include his mother?
Yeah.
And he gets mad and
and he's in her room like rummaging through her stuff.
Yeah.
And she catches him. And she's going to like go tell, and he runs out and grabs her, slams her to the ground, and basically smothers her with a pillow.
Yeah.
Made me want to go through the screen at Paulie. Very like just out of nowhere shocking scene. We then get to the season finale, or episode, season finale of season 4, where Irina drunkenly calls Carmela and tells her that she was Tony's mistress and that Tony has had multiple mistresses before that.
No, she was drunk and mad because Tony had sex with his sister.
True. I didn't write that down.
Yeah.
Yeah, because earlier... Yeah,
the one-legged girl.
Yeah, earlier Tony and Svetlana got together, and she drunkenly calls Carmela and tells her all this, and then Carmela just breaks.
Yep,
and is fed up. And when Tony comes home, Carmela, she's throwing his stuff out the window.
Yeah,
and we get a very uncomfortable scene of Carmela and Tony having like a verbally violent fight where Carmela basically kicks Tony out of his own house.
Yeah.
Well, Tony then afterwards, Tony decides that it's his house and he's going to pay for it. He's going to go back to it. And they have multiple verbal violent fights in this.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like Carmela tells Tony that she had feelings for Furio. And Tony looks like he's about to punch her, but he punches the wall behind her.
He punches the wall, and then he says he's going to kill Furio. That's when Furio flees back to Italy.
Back to Italy, and for permanently. We don't see him again. Tony also tells Carmela during one of these things that he is going to hell when he dies.
Yep.
Now he was saying that sarcastically because Carmela told him that earlier
in the very first episode.
Yep. But Tony says this very callously, like he's okay with it, which is, this is like his lifestyle has made him so hardened that he does not care now, which is a very sad state to be in. So yeah, this season ends with one of the most uncomfortable, like, domestic fight scenes I've seen in a lot of shows. We then get to episode 1 of season 5, where Carmela starts having... So, they're both split. Carmela and Tony are split up. Tony is in the, theater? Like some theater room thing that he... Well, no, he goes to Janice's house.
Yeah, he stays at Janice's for a while.
For a while, yeah. And then Carmela is obviously at their house, and they start having. Carmela starts having a problem with a black bear in her backyard.
Yeah,
and she has to get she doesn't get Tony. I think Tony shows up and.
No, she doesn't get Tony. She keeps calling some of the what I would consider some of the wussiest animal control people.
Yeah, yes.
To come out, and then they're just like, I ain't going after him.
Yeah.
If he comes back, we'll deal with him.
Yep. Carmine has a stroke and dies, leaving little Carmine to be...
No, he leaves a vacuum where little Carmine and Johnny Sack start battling to fill that vacuum.
To fill that vacuum, yep. Because he never passed it down to anybody.
No, he didn't pass it down to anybody, and per rules, it goes to the... what is it called? It's Silvio's one.
Yeah.
The consigliere.
Yeah,
which is that just means consultant.
Yeah, yeah. Chris and Polly are at a restaurant later on that episode, and they get into an argument outside in the parking lot where a waiter...
Oh, no, the waiter comes out and saying you didn't pay.
Yeah, you didn't pay.
He starts arguing you didn't pay, and then both of them beat him to death.
Yep. They get to episode 2 of season 5 where Tony's cousin... Oh, yeah, we get introduced to little Tony.
Steve
Buscemi.
Yeah, Steve Buscemi.
Played by Steve Buscemi, which he does a fantastic job at this role. And he gets out of prison, right? Is what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets out of prison and he tries to join Tony's gang because he's got no other skill, honestly. But yeah, Tony puts him on small work, if I'm not mistaken at first. Okay, so yeah, later on in this episode, Carmela and her friends, all the girlfriends, are all at a theater. They're at the theater at their house.
Yeah.
And because they're doing movie nights now.
Yeah, they're doing movie nights.
And they ironically are going to watch The Godfather as well. And Adriana has a breakdown and runs out because of her split loyalties between them and the FBI.
This is also where Tony starts becoming petty and takes the home theater out.
Yeah. Yep. We then get to episode 3 of season 5 where Junior's mental health goes on a massive decline.
Yeah.
Where he starts forgetting things. He starts showing signs of dementia.
Yep.
And Alzheimer's and all that. And they get to episode 4 season 5 where AJ gets into trouble with Carmela, and because him and Carmela just start fighting and verbally, and he goes to live with Tony.
Yep.
But Tony starts being a bad influence on him, and starts kind of AJ doesn't like him busting his balls, I guess is what it is with Bobby and all them, because Janice starts to get with Bobby. They marry, right? Don't they?
Yeah, Bobby and Mary. Bobby and Mary.
Bobby and Mary.
Here's what I was about to say. Bobby and Mary Janice.
Yes.
Bobby and Mary Janice.
Yes.
Bobby marries Janice.
Which, I forgot to bring up too. I didn't write it down, but Bobby's wife dies earlier in the show.
She dies and he literally can't get over it.
Yeah. But there's a very interesting scene where Janice is looking after him.
Yeah.
And Bobby breaks down. And then I forgot who Janice is talking to. It's some therapist.
So,
yeah.
You go ahead.
Yeah. She's talking to some therapist, and she tells the therapist that she, quote, felt unworthy to be in his presence.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
If you didn't notice, they didn't really get together on good faith on Janice's part. She manipulated the crap out of him.
Yeah, she did. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they're with each other, and AJ goes to live with Tony, but he eventually doesn't like it and goes back to Carmela.
Yeah, that happens right after Tony threatens to beat him up because he wasn't doing his homework.
Yeah. They get to episode 5 of season 5 where Adriana's stress between being torn between the FBI and her friends causes bowel problems for her.
Yeah.
So she starts having stomach problems, and
she starts to think she has cancer.
Yeah. And Tony starts having feelings for her. And he starts to go to Dr. Melfi for advice for it, and they start kind of spending a bit too much time with each other.
Yeah. By the way, you forgot that Dr. Melfi straight up told him to get her out of his presence.
Yes.
He said, leave the girl out, like, get her away from you.
Yeah, that would have been the best thing for him to do. And then Tony, while she's driving Adriana home one night, they get into a car crash, which then starts a false rumor, about them sleeping together while they were together, which Chris gets pissed.
No, that's an understatement.
Yeah, and he kicks, he tries to, he in this very uncomfortable scene, he like grabs Adriana and drags her out of the...
Yeah, he throws her out and then attempts in a very terrifying, terrifying scene. He just comes busting into the bada bing.
Yeah, with a
gun. Yeah. And ends up getting thrown to the ground in the rain, and you just see Tony walk up and point a gun directly at him.
Yeah.
And he's just like, what is your problem?
Yep.
I don't want to do this.
Yep.
But if you don't stop, I'll have to.
Yep. They get to episode 6 of season 5, where Carmela starts having feelings for one of her...
Also in that episode, it ends up getting so far that they call in a forensics expert to prove that she couldn't have been in a downward position when the car crash happened.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. But Carmela starts having feelings for one of her son's teachers. And then she goes to the priest and asks the priest why God put the need to have love in her. So this right here brings up like an identity issue. That her identity was not really in being saved in Christ. Truly.
No.
And due to that, she feels like she has to feed this. It's not love, it was lust. This lust feeling within her. And the priest really didn't do much to try and help her with that either.
No, and that's just because every priest in that area is just,
Yeah. But yeah, the interesting theme there that can spark really good conversations between Christians and non-Christian and their non-Christian friends.
Yeah,
about that. She eventually has sex with the teacher and goes back and confesses it to the priest because again she's torn. She wants to follow God and she wants to follow God, but she is torn from the lifestyle, from the influence of Tony.
Yeah.
She's torn on doing that.
Now, this becomes a theme coming up. We'll get to it. But she wants to follow God, but she doesn't want to give up Tony's money.
Yep. We then get to episode 7 of season 5, where Tony finds one of his father's mistresses. And I forgot her name. I didn't write her name down, but he starts to learn about his father through her. And he starts getting weird feelings for her, but he doesn't do anything with her because she's like 60.
Yeah. But he also, if we're learning something weird about her.
Yeah. I forgot.
Do you remember what it was? She was a mistress to JFK.
Oh, that's true. She was a mistress to JFK as well, which is just weird. Christopher starts being a bad influence to his sobriety partner and gets him back into gambling and back to using heroin again. So the trickle down of influence effect.
What he actually ends up doing is getting him hooked on drugs again.
Yep.
So that he can get him indebted to Chris.
Yeah.
So that he could use him as a way to get money back to Tony.
Yeah. Then get to see episode 8 of season 5, where Carmela throws a party for her 75-year-old father, which she doesn't want Tony there at first, but her father really wants Tony there because he likes Tony.
Yeah, well, that, and he also, the man of the house, needs to be at his own party.
Yeah. Yep. And
he refuses to show up at all.
Yep. So Carmela calls Tony. Tony shows up, and they actually kind of temporarily reconcile.
They temporarily reconcile, but Carmela realizes something there.
Yes.
That it was never her father that didn't like Tony and any of that.
Yeah.
And it was never about them two being apart. She finds out that her mother didn't want Tony there because her mother was bringing her rich friends in.
Yeah, and her rich snobby friends.
Yeah,
Which, by the way, there's a scene in this where Tony gives his father a gun. And one of her rich friends worked at a gun manufacturing place. And he straight up says to Tony, like, this gun would never, you can't sell it here. It wouldn't be manufactured here in the United States. Sold here in the United States. Pointing out that it was an illegal gun that he gave to...
Tony basically just looked at him and smiled.
Yeah, and walked away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tony B, later on this episode...
But unfortunately, before we continue, Carmela does basically disown her mom at the end of this episode. Yeah, and never speaks to her again.
Yeah, it's a sad scene on that one. Tony B, which is Steve Buscemi, starts to get kind of discontented with where he's at with Tony. Yeah. And Ghost, and
Tony's trying to protect him, and he's getting annoyed because he really wants to do more.
And he takes offers out for another. What was the other mob family that he took offers out? Do you remember?
Was it Johnny Sax?
Johnny Sax. I think it was Johnny Sax mob family. So he starts to do that. We get to episode 9 of season 5 where Tony finds out about Tony B.
Yeah.
Steve Buscemi. We're just going to call him Steve Buscemi from
Steve Buscemi.
Yeah. And Tony suffers a panic attack on a golf course due to it.
Because he's trying... wait, are you about to say why? Do you know why?
Because he found out him being in the...
No, there's a all underlying reason.
Didn't he kill one of Johnny Sax's guys?
No, not yet.
Oh.
No, okay, so we'll get there. Now, the reason Tony ends up having a panic attack here is he's trying to protect Steve Buscemi because Steve Buscemi was in jail because Tony didn't show up.
Right, yes, yeah.
Or he was in prison because Tony didn't show up and Tony feels guilt.
Yeah, yeah. We then get glimpses that one of Tony's capos, Vito, is a closeted homosexual.
Oh, yeah, when...
what's his name?
When...
Meadows' boyfriend.
That's it.
Yeah.
Meadows' boyfriend gets a construction job from Tony.
Yeah.
And he catches Vito in the act.
Yeah, he catches Vito.
At the point of this, in this story, that's only hearsay from him.
Yes. Yeah, it's only hearsay from him. He only tells it to Meadow.
Yeah, he only tells it to Meadow for now.
Yeah. Tony then starts to suffer another attack while he's in therapy with Dr. Melfi. And Dr. Melfi tries to calm him down and all that.
It's because he was starting to bring out the fact that he felt guilt towards Steve Buscemi, and he dang near passes out right there on the spot.
Yeah. Tony stops therapy with Dr. Melfi in season 4.
Yeah.
Him and Carmela break up. Beginning of season 5, I forgot to put that Tony tries to get with Dr. Melfi.
Yeah, he tries very, very hard to get with her by sending flowers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then he ends up having the panic attack from Steve Buscemi, and he's like, I guess I need to go back.
Yep. Then he goes back, that's why. Because I read that now, I was kind of confused. I was like, wait, didn't he stop it with her?
Yeah.
We then have episode 10 of season 5 where Janice gets into a fight with another woman at a soccer game and gets arrested, and Tony gets mad when he sees it on the...
He gets mad because now the name Soprano is on the TV again.
Yep. And it looks bad in the public eye.
She actually, for once, seems to actually be upset at her own actions.
Yeah.
And she tries to do better.
Yeah, she goes to anger management class only for her to get into a racist argument with a black woman there.
Yeah. But she keeps going.
Yeah. But she does keep going, and she does keep trying.
Yeah, she does keep trying. She does get better, but then...
Yeah.
Tony.
Yes. They get to episode 11 of season 5 where Tony's mistress, Valentina, she gets badly burned while she's cooking food.
Yeah.
And gets hospitalized.
Yeah, that. By the way, that scene bothered me because that was a really real scream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Tony goes to visit her, but he only cares about the way that she looks and that he can't be with her no more because half her face is burnt.
Yeah.
And then he tries to buy her affection.
Yeah, and she gets like real mad.
Yeah, and apology, showing that Tony did not again, she was just a sex object to him. Tony then has a dream where he comes across his old football coach who chastises him for going the wrong route.
Yep.
In life, which we start to see glimpses of Tony. These are the first glimpses of Tony wishing that he's secretly wishing that he lived another life. Yeah, the one that he is now.
The thing is the coach says you're not ready, and what he's actually saying you're not ready for is Tony's still not ready to let go of those thoughts.
Yes,
that he needs to get out of this life.
Yeah, exactly.
To Johnny Sack, what happens is Johnny Sack goes and kills someone who was trying to get out of the game.
Yeah,
who was friends with Tony B.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony B gets mad. And or Phil kills the guy.
Yeah.
Tony B gets mad and goes out of Tony 8. Steve Buscemi.
Yeah.
Steve Buscemi goes out without Tony's blessing.
Yes.
And shoots Phil's brother.
Yeah.
Then dies bleeding in Phil's arms.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And so we get to episode 12 of season 5 where Johnny Sack threatens Tony if he doesn't turn Tony B in.
Yep.
Like him and Johnny Sack sit down and Johnny Sack essentially goes like, there's nothing else to say here. Turn him in or stuff's going to get bad.
You forgot the part where Tony does ask Phil, he'll turn him in if he'll make it quick.
Yeah.
And Phil says, nah.
Yep.
I'm going to take my time.
Yep. Christopher and Adriana are sitting in their, apartment having a conversation after this, and Christopher states that he is going to hell for Tony. So, again, life
for Tony? You made these decisions.
Yeah, yeah.
You could have told Tony no, and even if he killed you, you would have been safe.
Yeah, it was like a pledge of loyalty to Tony. But yeah, it's this whole like hardening oneself due to your lifestyle that you're okay with going to hell on that. Yeah, it's like a hardening. Your lifestyle hardens you so much that you don't care at that point, which is a very sad state to be in. Adriana then gets questioned by the FBI for covering up a stabbing that happens in her club. She confesses it to the FBI.
Yes,
it happens because
the dudes came in, killed somebody.
Yeah,
for Tony.
Yeah,
and she just disposed of the body and the weapon.
Yeah. In the weapon, and they have her on tape.
Yeah,
disposing of it. Adriana then eventually tells Christopher everything that's going on.
Yeah,
with the FBI, and Christopher gets so distraught about it that he goes out and he just tries to commit suicide by taking pills.
Yeah,
but how exactly does he get stopped? Because I didn't write it down for some reason. I forgot. I think Tony stops him or something, or calls him or something like that.
Yeah, probably. I actually don't remember. I just know that you don't find out what happened between him and Tony until season 6.
Yeah, and then later on we then get Silvio drives Adriana out.
Yeah, it's because he said Chris was in the hospital. We got to go find him. We got to go all the way to the back.
Oh, that's right. Chris tries to kill himself. He gets hospitalized.
Yeah, but then Silvio's like, well, the hospital's this way. She's through the woods.
Yeah.
This way.
And then,
screw Silvio.
Yeah, this made me mad at Silvio. So Silvio drives Adriana out to the woods and shoots her and kills her. And she tries to
deserve that.
Yeah, Adriana was a very tragic character who needed to be out, to get away from everybody on this. But her loyalty to Christopher, unfortunately, ended up bad for her. Ended up being her demise. We then get to the season finale of season 5, where Tony wrestles throughout most of this episode with turning in Tony B, his cousin, Steve Buscemi, his cousin, into Johnny Sack. He then makes the decision that he is going to do it himself, where he lures Tony Steve Buscemi to come outside of his house, and then he shoots him and kills him.
Yep.
Later on, this also fun fact: this was apparently supposed to be the series finale, but HBO got the writers to create one more season, because the show was so popular and so highly rated.
You know what? The problem is how the season now ends is comical.
Yeah, yeah. So Tony and Johnny Sack meet up at Johnny Sack's house.
Yeah.
And as they are discussing business, Tony looks up and sees FBI agents coming after them, and he just turns around and runs. and so Johnny Sack turns around and sees him, and he tries to run away, but Johnny Sack gets caught and arrested.
Yep.
Well, Tony somehow gets away, even though Tony's car is there.
His car is sitting in the driveway of a known assailant.
Yes. And he somehow gets away. He runs into the woods, kind of stays there for a little bit, and then goes back to his house. No questions, nothing.
Nothing.
And that's how the season ends. And honestly, I think that it would have been a fitting end if it did end here. If Tony got arrested, Tony did get arrested here and got sent to prison.
Yeah,
I think that would have been a fitting end on that one.
Like the episode be a little longer, and it just shows him in prison.
Yeah, yeah.
Compared to what we got, though,
yeah,
I will say there's some good scenes in season 6, but
yeah, season 6 is definitely really good. But yeah, the ending is kind of like why. So we then get to season 6, the final season of the show, episode 1, where so we talked about Gene earlier going to the FBI. This is where it comes back, where he is trying to leave the mob, trying his best to leave the mob.
Yeah,
and has conflict with Tony not wanting him to. And he eventually goes and hangs himself in his own garage.
Is this the guy that was trying to move to Florida?
Yes.
Yep.
And Tony don't want him to, and he goes and hangs himself because he was with the FBI, so he knew stuff was going to come up. So, yeah, sad scene. Tony goes to check on Junior, and Junior, in his deteriorating mind, thinks that Tony is somebody that was after him.
A previous mafia member that was after him.
Yep, and Junior pops out of the goes to hide from Tony. Tony tries to find him, and Junior pops out of the corner with a gun and shoots him.
Yep.
And runs away and hides in a closet while Tony tries to call.
He calls 911, but he doesn't manage to.
Yeah, and that's how that episode ends. We then get to episode 2 of season 6, which is one of the most profound episodes of the entire show, because Tony, while he is unconscious in the hospital, he has a dream about living another life.
Yeah.
He has a dream that he picks up the identity of a man named Kevin Finnerty or something like it.
Yeah.
And the thing is that this identity of his is... This Kevin Finnerty identity is, instead, he's still wealthy, but instead of him being a mob boss, he's a businessman.
Tony is Tony.
Yeah.
In this dream, Tony gets mistaken for a guy named Kevin Finnerty because he has his IDs.
Yeah.
And in the dream, Tony himself is a businessman.
Yeah.
Kevin Finnerty is a grifter. And people are after Kevin Finnerty. That's what happens with the... Well, he sold fake air conditioners to some monks.
Yeah, true, yes. I forgot that. I was sitting there wondering what the monks were for. And Tony the entire time is I don't know.
I'm not Kevin Finnerty.
Yeah.
But then there's weird scene happens where he's like, I'm not Kevin Finnerty. Do I even look like him? And he pulls out the driver's license. It's him.
Yeah. But this weird, this alter life that he dreams about, it shows that he wishes deep down that he lived another life. That he did not have the stress of being a mob boss. Because, it's the no rest for the wicked. When you do stuff wicked like that, you can't rest because you have just nothing to rest in, because you're destroying people's lives. You're going against completely what God designed you for. And you completely unravel. You either have to deal with it the way that Tony is doing it, or you become so hardened that you become sociopathic and you have no feelings anymore. Both are awful places to be in. So and this alter ego, alter life, he's just a regular businessman who made his wealth through just actually good means of using.
Yeah.
Good means of actually using his skills, business skills, in a good way. And there's a scene where he's about to wake up, and he's at a house, and the house there's a bright light shining through the house.
Yeah.
And do you remember exactly what was told to him about the house? And
he walked up to the house, and someone was standing out there.
Yeah.
And he was basically asking, who's in there? And he said, and the guy standing out said, everyone.
Yeah.
And he starts naming off people. He named off Steve Buscemi. He named off everyone that you've seen killed in the show so far.
Yeah.
And he said, and then the guy says, they all want you here.
I think that house probably would have been hell if he stepped into it.
Yeah, because the type of people he was naming off were not good people.
Yeah, they weren't good people. They didn't accept the gospel or anything like that when they died. So, yeah, very, very interesting scene where we really get inside the mind of Tony, of him secretly wanting to live another life that was not as stressful and destructive as the one that he's living in now. Also in this episode, when Meadow, she walks into, there's a very interesting scene where Meadow she walks into Tony's room while he's hospital room while he's in the coma, and she shares a poem that honestly kind of bastardizes the Lord's Prayer. It says, "Our Father who art in heaven, stay there, and we shall stay on earth," which is so pretty. I'm not joking. It's from somebody, but it's so terrible because it's.
I mean, that was Satan's poem.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want. You don't want God. The only reason why there's good in this world is because God has His hand in it.
Yep.
Like we as Christians, we believe that that everything that is good is from God.
Yeah. And
this is also kind of like when the Bible says, "Don't love the world and don't be too attached to the world." Stuff. This is doing just that. You're like very attached to the world to where you don't want God.
Yeah.
It's a very weird poem. I don't know why she said that to Tony on that.
I don't know, but did you get the part where AJ just says he failed college?
I didn't write that down, no. But
I was just saying it's important for what's coming up.
Yeah. But AJ does threaten to kill Junior for shooting Tony while he's in a coma.
Yep.
On this one. But yeah, stay there, which we shall stay on earth, which is so pretty. Like, yes, this earth has beauty to it. But this earth also has a curse to it.
Yep.
That without God, that curse is going to be there.
Yep.
But God promises that in the new heavens and new earth and Revelations in the Bible, that curse will be gone. So I'd much rather hinge my hope on that than on here in this life. So we then get to episode 3 of season 6, where Paulie takes out a couple of Colombian guys who have a huge stash of money, and he does so stupidly again in an extreme mess where he's like shooting everywhere, and
man, these guys are elusive.
Yeah, he's tripping over people and falling to the floor like one of the Three Stooges. He's stupid.
Paulie is garbage.
Yes. Silvio is then temporarily put into Tony's position, and he kind of has a rough time doing
temporarily, as in 2 minutes, because he passes out the moment someone asks him a question.
Yep, he has a hard time doing that.
He also expresses that he doesn't think he can handle it anyway.
Yeah. AJ has an outburst at the press when they're at their house, and flips them off and says, "Remember that?"
I thought this was where AJ was just telling him stuff, and Carmela drags him back inside.
No, remember he gets mad. He's in he opens the window, flips him off, tells him "F you," and then they put that on the news. Carmela sees it.
Oh yeah,
and she calls AJ a quote cross to bear, which that's important because that this is part of what AJ's downward spiral right here. Carmela starts going and seeing Dr. Melfi as well. Tony then, at the end of this episode, finally comes out of his coma. We then get to episode 4 of season 6, where Tony, while he is in the hospital, Oh.
No, we're gonna talk about the pastor.
Yeah. Tony, while he's in the hospital, recovering, he gets approached by an evangelical pastor that tries to evangelize him.
Yep.
Well, he has an interesting conversation with him and preaches the gospel.
Yeah.
Then he completely soils his witness by picking up a book that was about dinosaurs, and then starts ranting about young Earth creationism.
Of course.
For anybody that doesn't know what that is, it's basically this idea that the 6 days of creation in the book of Genesis are literal 6 days, and that the world is not a couple billion years. The universe is not a couple billion years old. It's 6,000, and that we as humans lived on Earth with the dinosaurs.
Well, newsflash to the people who keep making us say that in movies and stuff. Not all of us believe that.
No, I actually hold to an old Earth view. I don't necessarily think the 6 days of creation were literal, because especially the sun and the moon don't get made till the 4th day.
No, when we learn something like this, where we, using science, realize that we've been misreading the Bible.
Yeah,
that's all that means. We're misreading the Bible. The Bible's not wrong. No. We were wrong.
Yeah. So, and I do think that evangelists that are out trying to evangelize people,
preach the gospel, don't spew nonsense.
Yeah, keep preach the gospel. Don't then destroy your witness.
Preach what Jesus said to preach, the gospel. Yeah. Do not preach your own thoughts.
Yeah, because Tony then questions him about it, and then goes to a scientist atheist dude who's in the hospital as well, and has a conversation with him about all that. And
where the scientist basically said, yeah, God doesn't exist because the universe doesn't need one. And then he dies of cancer.
Yeah, and I don't know,
which is sad.
Yeah, the way I see it when I look at the universe, for me it's like I refuse to believe it's just randomly appeared.
We're not going to get into this, but it's obvious you can't have a beginning without something that began it.
Yeah, but that pastor did soil his witness there doing that. Paulie finds out that his aunt is actually his mother is not his...
You mess that up.
His mother is not his mother. His mother is actually his aunt. And his aunt is actually his mother.
Yep.
And his aunt is a nun. Meaning that she kind of went against what she was supposed to do as a nun and had sex.
That and she couldn't take care of him.
Yeah. Yep. She couldn't take care of him because it would soil her being a nun. Or, it would look bad on her being a nun is what it was. Because nuns aren't supposed to have...
Yeah.
They're supposed to be celibate. They're not supposed to have kids.
Yeah.
Which this makes Paulie mad on that. And, the rocket scientist dude... The scientist dude at the hospital then goes on a weird new agey pseudoscience rant.
Yeah.
While they're watching a boxing match in the hospital.
The poor guy that had to hold the antenna.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, he goes on this weird, we're all energy things and that's all we are, which it's pseudoscience, new age stuff. Yeah, Tony tells the pastor who, dang on, I got this whole episode all screwed up. Tony tells the pastor that it might be nice to hold on. It must be nice to hold on to something.
Yeah.
Meaning that Tony wants to hold on to something, but he can't give his mobster life up like that.
Well, he is holding on to something. His mobster life.
Yeah. The pastor goes on a young Earth creationist rant. Then he goes and talks to the scientist dude, and the scientist dude talks heaven and hell being, and this is part of the New Agey pseudoscience, that the heaven and hell are a presupposition of two opposing entities. Which, no, not really.
Not even opposing entities.
No.
Because God is sovereign over hell, too.
Yeah, God is sovereign over... Yeah, the Bible shows us that God is sovereign over hell. God created Satan.
Yeah.
And Satan can do nothing outside of God's sovereignty.
No, they're not two opposite ends that are, both equally as powerful. Heck no.
Yeah. And Satan can do nothing outside of God's sovereignty, and all Satan is he's a fallen angel who is trying to wreak as much havoc as he can before he goes to hell.
Yeah.
Like, that's basically what
I mean, technically, if you want to put it, it's just a kid throwing a tantrum.
Yeah. Yep. And the whole energy New Age science thing, it's New Age mysticism that's built off of what's called Gnosticism.
Yeah.
Where it's a separation of the material and the physical. That the material is ultimately kind of just bad, but the physical, I mean, yeah. Did I say material and physical? I meant material and spiritual.
Yeah.
The material is bad, but the spiritual is good. And that we are mostly like spiritual, but it's like energy spiritual, which is not, the Bible talks about how our bodies, our spirit and our bodies are interconnected.
Yeah.
And like our bodies are us. And that in the new heavens and new earth, we'll have a new body.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he goes on a rant about that. We didn't get to, just very interesting episodes with some interesting themes on there that can definitely, again, spark really good conversations between Christians, fans of the show, and with their non-Christian friends who also are fans of the show. So, yeah. We then get to episode 5 of season 6 where Johnny Sack, while he's in prison, sends a request to attend his daughter's wedding.
Yeah.
Which they approve. But he's not allowed to smoke. He's not allowed to do no.
And he's only got a certain time period.
Yeah, yep. While he's sitting there, while he's with Tony, he wants Tony to whack someone for him. I forgot exactly who. Tony declines at first, but then eventually accepts.
Yeah.
Junior gets admitted into a mental hospital in this episode because of Junior's declining mental state and the fact that he shot Tony. Johnny Sack then gets abruptly taken back to his prison, to prison, like at the tail end of his daughter's.
It's right as they were like about to cut the cake and take pictures and all that.
Yeah.
And as he was getting up to take pictures, and listen, I get that Johnny needed to go back to jail.
Yeah.
But I absolutely hate these cops for just ruining the wedding like this because they all just come flying in these black cars, just completely ruin the wedding.
Yeah.
And then run up and just grab Johnny and just take him away right in front of everyone, right in front of the kids.
Yes. Yeah, and it's a very sad scene where Johnny cries, seeing his having to go away from his daughter.
And Tony scolds him for it.
Well, Tony and all of them and Phil and all of them are watching this. And Phil says something about how Johnny is weak because of it, which makes Tony Phil
who scolded him.
Yeah, which makes Tony wonder if his guys see him like that. So he goes to Dr. Melfi about it, and Dr. Melfi tells him that I don't even think she thought that Tony was going to do what he does, but she tells Tony something like, the alpha has to show his strength or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Tony makes the decision toward the end of the episode to beat up his bodyguard in front of everybody.
Yeah, the buff dude.
Yeah. To show how alpha he is. We didn't get to episode 6, season 6, where Vito's secret gay life then gets exposed to Tony and his crew because who is it that catches him at the gay bar?
It was two of the lower level kids.
Yeah.
They were not kids, but dudes that just joined.
Yeah, and the F slur is said multiple times throughout this episode.
So,
So, if that's a trigger for you, then just warning on that one.
But they confirm it by talking to Meadows' boyfriend.
Yeah, yep. He decides that to run away from home to get away from Tony and his gang because he's afraid of what they're going to do.
Yep.
Because Tony and his gang want to kill him, and they
no hesitation, they really want to kill him.
Well, I mean, they promote actual, real homophobia.
Yeah,
where they actually hate it, and they so much that they want him dead, and they call him the F slur. They talk about wanting to kill him, and I want to say, we as Christians, the Bible is clear that homosexuality is a sin, but so is having any sex outside of, a husband and a wife.
Yeah.
In marriage. All that's considered, anything outside of that context is considered a sin. But despite the fact that's considered a sin, we as Christians, we are not called to hate homosexual people who have homosexual desires like that.
Yeah.
No, we're not called to affirm them in their actions either, but we are called to love them as human beings made in the image of God. And what Tony and his guys and Phil and his guys, how they treat Vito in this season is awful.
Yeah.
We don't condone it. So we then get to episode 7 of season 6, where Christopher and little Carmine, who are together for Christopher's movie, they go to Hollywood to get his movie going. Artie finds out that somebody is stealing, one of his people are stealing from his business, and he has an absolute meltdown.
Absolute meltdown, yes.
Which I think is from the influence of Tony. Because Tony being a mob boss, I don't think Artie would have had a meltdown this much if it wasn't for Tony.
Now, here's what's funny. The person who was stealing from a woman was working for a guy who was working for Tony.
Yeah. Well, he goes to the guy's house and he, punches him.
Yep.
You know, all that toward the end of this episode. Then you get to episode 8 of season 6. AJ is spending most of his time at a club, which distresses Tony and Carmelo because AJ is going on a downward depressive spiral and he's making stupid, dumb decisions.
He also claims that he wants to go back to school for event planning.
Yes.
Which, of course, Tony still is really mad at him for dropping out in the first place.
Yeah. Vito is still away trying to, live outside of his...
Yeah, I feel bad for Vito, but I also didn't need secondary love story from him either.
With that, and also, I mean, it does a good job. The writing does a good job making you feel bad for him, but also understanding that he's a mob boss who's killed multiple people, and, he's a mob capo who's killed multiple people, and he ran away from his wife and kids.
Yeah.
So it's like, it does a good job making you feel torn with him. Torn in how you should feel about him.
Makes you think, like all good shows do.
Yes. Tony falls in love with a woman named Juliana, a woman trying to buy his business, and he tries to have sex with her, but he stops it because of Carmela.
Yeah.
He sees his wedding band as he's trying to have sex with her, and he stops it.
Yeah.
Vito then falls in love with a man that is a waitress at a diner that he's going to. Oh yeah, AJ tries to go and kill Junior at the mental hospital, but he drops his knife and he gets arrested because
he gets arrested, and Junior's like, "Get me out of here, bro!"
Mm-hmm.
And then once he drops his knife, Junior's like, "What? Why?"
Yeah, Tony scolds him because he doesn't want him to go down the same path that he's on.
Yeah, he scolds him is an understatement. He slams his own kid against the car, grabbing him by the collar, and he had him off the ground.
Yep. And then AJ then passes out in a club later on in that episode because he's going down the same path of the stress that Tony has. Or panic attacks that Tony has. We then get to episode 9 of season 6, where Christopher, after Adriana's death, Christopher gets married, actually.
Yeah.
No. He has another girlfriend.
Yep.
Finds out that his girlfriend is pregnant. He actually is excited about it, and decides to actually marry her.
Yeah,
which was actually very wholesome in my opinion on that.
Oh, it's awesome. After he told his mob boss to go kill his own girlfriend.
Yeah, I know, but
it's awesome.
Yes. Him and Tony then go out and they steal wine from a biker gang, and they joke about how the biker gang was acting when they were stealing from them, because the biker gang was like, "Do you know who you're stealing from?" And Tony's like, "Do you know who you're stealing from?" like that. It was.
We missed. We forgot to talk about the comical scene where Tony calls Vito and some dude on the side of the road picks it up.
Oh yeah.
See, this scene makes me laugh because Tony calls Vito, and in his anger, some poor construction worker picks up the phone on the side of the road and starts saying, "Well, who's this?" And Tony just immediately starts cursing at him like, who the F are you? What? Yeah. Where's Vito, you effing loser? Something like that.
He's like, you probably sucked him off too.
Yeah, no, and then the guy's like, huh? Why are you talking to me like that? And then he's like, you probably sucked him off too or something. And then the poor guy just goes, hold on a second. And just throws it under a steamroller.
And for context, Vito, like, his car
threw his phone so he couldn't be tracked.
His car broke down, and then he shot a dude for forgot what happened. I forgot exactly the particulars of what happened, but he shot a dude and threw his phone.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Tony earlier.
Yeah, Tony and Christopher steal wine from a biker gang, and they think that the way that the biker gang acts towards them is hilarious.
Yeah,
for some reason. Christopher then again gets back on heroin because he just keeps going on this cycle of getting sober, then going back to it, sober, then going back to it because of Tony. Tony's a awful influence.
Also, fun fact, if you didn't know, the person who plays Christopher also wrote the show. Was a co-writer.
Well, he was a co-writer. Michael Imperioli.
Yeah,
is his name. Yeah, he's a co-writer. So he probably wrote Christopher himself.
Yeah.
So.
No, he had to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Paulie, who apparently funds a fair every once in a while, has trouble funding it. Causes a ride that Janice and her and Bobby's child is on to break down, and Bobby goes nuts and tries to beat Paulie up.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Friggin', he should have. Paulie needs a good whooping.
Yeah, yes, because Paulie is dumb.
He's dumb, but he keeps winning. I hate it.
Yeah. We then get to episode 10 of season 6, where Vito is trying to make a new life with his boyfriend from the diner that he finds.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got ahead of ourselves here. He runs away. He eventually runs away from him, but gets into a car crash, shoots and kills the dude who owns the car that he crashed into, then throws his phone down, and then that's when
we got ahead of ourselves. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought this was on his way up there.
Yeah.
But no, he runs away from him, you forgot to mention, because he starts to remember his family.
Yeah.
And he starts to feel guilt.
Bobby then gets attacked by a street gang out of nowhere. And Tony shows no resentment, no care for it due to his disdain for Janice.
Yeah.
Johnny Sack's house for them. Oh, yeah. He buys Johnny Sack's because Johnny Sack's wife sells their house.
Yeah.
While he's in prison. And Tony buys it and gives it to Bobby and Janice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Johnny Sack then pleads guilty and gets 15 years in prison.
15,
yeah.
For every, 500 charges they read him.
Yes. We then get to episode 11 where AJ, who was working at a Blockbuster here, gets fired from working at Blockbuster, and that upsets Carmela a lot because she's like, Blockbuster.
He's worked at places, gotten fired, worked at another place, got fired, now he worked at Blockbuster, got fired, went to college, got dropped out.
Yeah. Vito just shows back up to Tony, and Tony doesn't know how to respond at first.
No, Tony was basically like, why are you talking to me? Get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, because Tony actually doesn't want to kill him because Vito was
Tony is
a capo to him.
Tony is actually the only one who didn't want to kill him.
Yes. Yeah. And Vito then shows up back to his wife and kids, and he lies to his kids that he is a CIA spy, and that's why he had to leave.
Yep. And then he gets a phone call he tries to call the guy from the bar.
Yep. And we then get
he calls the guy, but then he tells his kids and stuff that he has to stay out of the house for a moment because he's afraid that Phil was going to come there.
Yeah.
Or Phil or somebody else is going to come there. Then we find out that Phil already knew where he was.
Yes.
And we get a very disturbing scene where he goes back to his room. Mm-hmm. He closes the door, and Phil's standing behind the door.
Yep. And Phil and his men beat Vito to death.
They beat him to death, yes.
And they, disturbing content warning, they ram a pool cue up his...
Yeah.
And Phil calls him a, quote, disgrace.
You just rammed a pool cue up some dude's butt, and you're calling him a disgrace?
Exactly, yeah. Again, as Christians, we don't affirm homosexual acts.
But I definitely don't affirm that crap.
Yeah, we don't affirm killing anybody image bearer of Christ, which is every person.
Yeah.
We don't affirm of that either.
No.
So this was actual homophobia, real homophobia.
Yep.
Carmilla then decides to go to Paris with, what's her name, Rosalia.
God, this is a freaking depressing episode.
And she has an existential crisis, just saying, beauty. Yeah.
She just completely, the entire time, just soils the whole vacation because she can't enjoy the beauty of what she was seeing. Yeah. She just keeps reminding herself of the horribleness back home.
Yes. Which, I mean, it's a good thing that, I mean, she hates being in a life that Tony has.
Well, right there, we could say that she was technically battling with the Holy Spirit there.
Yeah.
Because he was basically trying to say, hey, think about this. Like, stop doing it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the demons won.
Yeah.
Won her over, not won over the Holy Spirit. They can't win over the Holy Spirit.
No. Then we get a very brutal scene toward the end where Silvio, and I forget the chef guy's name.
Oh, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
I hate this scene because they just shank him to death on camera.
Yeah.
Some dude comes in and starts making jokes about Vito.
About Vito and how he got a pool cue. And Silvio and the other guy that was with him both just stand up, grab knives, and shank him at least 100 times. Silvio first, grabs a bag of flour, smacks it over his head, and then they basically, they stab him to death, and it's a brutal scene, but it shows you that
they still cared about Vito a bit.
Yeah, even though they expressed actual homophobia towards him, they still found his death to be, and joking about it, to be disgusting.
We didn't bring this up because, I don't know why, but if you're wondering, because we forgot to say it, Phil wanted him dead because Vito was married to Phil's, was it his niece?
Yeah. Yeah, Vito was married to Phil's niece.
Yeah, and he felt like his family honor had been
disgraced.
Disgraced,
yeah.
We didn't mention that, so it may, to people who didn't watch the show and still wanted to listen to our thing, probably had no idea why Phil went after him.
Yeah. Then get to episode 12 of season 6, where Christopher and Tony fall in love with the same woman, and they don't know about it. And they both start sleeping with her, and they both don't know about it, and, it's a weird scene.
It's stupid.
Yeah. AJ falls in love with a woman named Blanca.
Okay, so prior to this, there's very terrifying scene, I would say.
Yeah.
Where Tony takes AJ out to his car in the garage.
Yeah.
And tells him, I got you a job.
Yeah.
You need to go to this job. And AJ is like, I don't know that I want to. And then Tony just walks up, pushes him against the car and says, don't test me on this.
Yeah.
And then he just walks away, turns back around and throws a rock through the windshield. And he says, it may be a bit drafty on your drive up there tomorrow. That sort of thing. So now, he's now working at the construction job. Now we can actually talk about this.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. What? She looks quite a bit older than AJ.
Yes.
And was I not wrong on that?
AJ gets into some questionable relationships here.
Yeah.
He falls in love with a woman named Blanca, and I want to say that she's 10 years older.
Yeah, she has to be.
And she has a kid, doesn't she?
Yes, she has a kid. But AJ actually ends up falling in love with her and caring for that kid.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
Tony then gets a building that Phil owns blown up to send a message to him.
Yep. That's the big theme, for the rest of the show, is the fight between him and Phil.
Phil then has a heart attack and gets hospitalized.
Yeah.
Christopher tells the real estate woman that they're both going out with about the mafia oath and that his higher power is the oath. So his God is basically the oath that he had.
I mean, they act like it, so...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's definitely who their God is throughout this entire thing. We then get to episode 13 of season 6, where Tony gets arrested for having illegal ammunition, but he quickly gets out, because anytime Tony gets arrested in the show, he quickly gets bailed out immediately.
Yeah. Well, the reason for that, right?
Yeah. No.
The reason is they're trying to build a bigger case.
Yeah.
So they're trying to keep him thinking he's good to go.
Right. Yeah, so it's kind of to trick him.
They want a bigger case, so whenever he gets put in jail for something small like that.
Oh, so that they have to get him out.
The lawyer sends it in. The lawyer's just as stupid as Tony is.
Yeah.
Thinking that he's actually getting him out, but in reality, it's actually the FBI that's letting him out.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to build a bigger case on him.
Yeah. Later on, him and Carmela go on a vacation with Janice and Bobby out to the woods. And
my God, this friggin' episode.
They all get drunk, and Tony makes a joke about Janice.
Yeah, and Bobby finally, flips.
Yeah, flips and punches Tony.
Well, punches him, and they get into a fight, and Tony gets his butt whooped. It's not even close. He get whooped by Bobby.
Bobby beats him up, yes.
But then Tony was basically like, all right. Yeah, so just walks away. And then he barges into their room while they're asleep, drunk.
Yes.
And he just says, you beat me fair and square. You beat me fair and square.
Yep.
And Bobby, rightfully so, looked worried.
Yes. And Tony he's insecure about it the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
He cannot let it go. He keeps bringing it up.
Yep.
Because his huge ego is in burst.
Like the very next morning, they're just sitting there, and all of a sudden he goes, if I wasn't drunk.
Yes.
And Bobby's like, cool, I don't care. Let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. But they do have a heart-to-heart.
Yeah.
In the boat.
Yeah.
About
I was worried about that, by the way, when they went out in a boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was worried.
Yeah. They get to episode 14 of season 6 where Johnny Sack finds out he has cancer and has 3 months to live.
Yep.
Christopher's movie, Cleaver, gets finished. And
oh, my God.
And it becomes a hit, and it's a stupid movie.
It is an absolute garbage movie.
Yeah. Carmela becomes worried that it's based way too much on Tony.
She watches it and rightfully points out that it's clearly a
revenge fantasy.
A revenge fantasy against Tony.
Yes. And Tony is naive and dumb to it.
Now, Tony was just like, hey, that's great.
Yeah. And but Tony starts to kind of question Christopher about it. So Christopher goes and has his co-writer lie to Tony for him. Which Christopher then shows up. I forget why, but he shows up drunk to this guy's apartment.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was this episode or what. Yeah, I think it might have been, correct me if I'm wrong, it might have been this episode, but the guy looks at him and goes says something like, Chris, you're in the mafia. And Chris goes, yeah. And then pulls out a gun and shoots him. Was it this episode he does it?
It had to have been, because it wouldn't have been a later episode.
Yeah. Oh no, if I see it written down on these next episodes, I will correct myself.
Yeah.
So little Carmine gets a man that Silvio's having dinner with whacked right in front of Silvio.
Yeah.
Shot right in front of Silvio, and this creates contention because Silvio is he was right there, and he shot him right in front of me.
Yeah.
So that creates tension between Tony and little Carmine and all of them.
Yeah.
Johnny Sack then passes away from cancer at the end of the episode. It's a very sad scene as they...
Oh, it's also just, he's done bad things, but yeah. I don't wish cancer on anybody.
No, because
it's a slow, it just slowly drains you away.
Yeah, watch somebody die like that. It's one of the worst things ever. Yeah, we don't wish that upon anybody.
No.
We have episode 15 of season 6, where Tony and Paulie decide to lay low in Miami to escape an investigation on a house that they killed somebody in. Kind of, I think it was off.
Yeah.
Off screen that they killed somebody in.
Freaking Paulie. Of course it was.
Yeah. During the entire thing, Tony starts to question Paulie's loyalty.
Yeah.
Because Paulie starts acting strange. And the reason why is because of Tony not coming to him while he was in the prison, and Paulie finding out about his mother's real identity and all that. So
yeah, is this the same one where Paulie finally spills that?
Yeah.
And then Tony's like, are you stupid? I shouldn't be showing my face around any prison.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then Junior starts running a gambling business in the mental hospital.
He's gambling with Coke and M&Ms.
Yeah. To these poor mentally ill patients.
Yes. Mentally ill patients that some of them were in there because they weren't supposed to have sugar.
Yeah. It shows that this is all Junior knows.
Yep.
all he knows is how to destroy people with his mafia life.
He picks a kid who is mega bipolar.
Yep, yes.
He's in there because of bipolar disorder.
Yes.
To do his bidding.
Yes, and that kid ends up beating him up too.
Yep.
Toward the end of that episode, we then get to episode 16 of season 6, where Tony starts getting into gambling and he starts having losing streaks on it, which creates tensions with him with Carmela and Hesh, and he actually starts lending Hesh money, and Hesh is like,
he starts trying to lend Hesh money.
Yeah, and Hesh is like very weary about it because he's like,
why are you giving me money?
Yeah.
Why are you giving me money?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is like the last time we see Hesh too.
It's because he ran away. He's like,
yeah.
He's like, he's starting to lend me money. He's clearly desperate, and I'm dead if I don't leave.
Yeah. We then get introduced to Vito. Well, Vito's son, Vito Jr.
Yep.
Turns out to be a delinquent who is struggling with who his father was, and he's, skipping.
Yep.
He's not doing anything in school. He goes and he straight up just poops in the boy's bathroom.
Yep.
It's a weird scene.
Pooped in the urinal.
Yeah.
I will figure this out, okay?
This is South Park.
Yep.
Yeah. Who did a big meaty shud?
Not in the urinal. Yeah.
And they're all just laughing.
Yep. He's like, this ain't funny.
Yeah, he gets sent off to a camp. Tony tries to talk to him. Well, Phil and Tony try to talk to him.
Yeah.
But they can't get reason with him, so he gets sent off to a camp. And that's the end of his character right there.
Yeah, so a little notice, the running theme of season 6 is starting something, ending it, starting something, ending it, starting something, ending it.
Yeah. There's a lot of frayed ends.
Yeah.
To the ending of the show.
Yeah.
We then get to episode 17 of season 6, where AJ falls into a depression after Blanca breaks up with him.
Yeah.
And he falls into a hard depression. Tony goes to Melfi for advice on AJ, and he gets emotional about him.
Yeah.
Because he don't like seeing him that way.
That was earlier.
Polly sends goons to Christopher's father-in-law's store, which creates tension between him and Christopher. And Polly and Christopher cannot make up throughout this entire
No, they make up and they hate each other. And they make up and they hate each other. And that's just because Polly keeps going on a friggin' power trip over him.
Yeah. And then we did have Christopher finally admit at a sobriety meeting that Tony is his enabler.
Mm-hmm.
Tony is the main influence of why he keeps getting back into heroin and how much of a black hole Tony is.
Yeah.
Like he finally admits that. Christopher then goes and throws one of Polly's goons out a 2-story window for going to his father-in-law. Yeah, going to his father-in-law's business.
Yeah.
AJ helps a group of kids beat up another kid. I forgot exactly what for, but this is part of it. Part of his his depression and nihilism that he falls into of not caring about life at all.
Yeah.
Right here. Polly then makes an out-of-pocket joke about Christopher while they're at a bar. Yeah, they're at a bar, and Tony makes Polly and Christopher make up. But then Polly makes an out-of-pocket joke, and Christopher storms out. That's what happened.
Yeah.
And Christopher, okay, so no, I got ahead of myself earlier. Christopher then drunkenly shows up to his co-writer's apartment and kind of like confides in him. But his co-writer looks at him and says, like, Chris, I can't help you. You're in the mafia. And that's when Chris is like, yeah, okay. And then pulls out a gun and shoots him.
Yep.
Then get to episode 18 of season 6, where we get quite possibly the most
This about AJ
uncomfortable scene in the entire show, where Tony and Christopher are out in a car.
Oh, no, yep.
And they get into a car crash. Christopher is badly injured. Like, I'm talking, he is like, if he doesn't make it to the hospital soon, he will die there.
Yep.
So Tony decides that he's going to kill him off himself by smothering him. And he shows zero remorse for it.
No, he shows no remorse. He just sits there and stares at him.
Yeah. Like, this scene right here makes you sick because not only is Christopher's Tony's nephew, but the entire show, Chris has tried to do good things, but Tony keeps influencing him to do bad stuff over and over again. Only for all of it to end with Tony killing Chris himself and showing zero feelings for it.
Yeah.
So this is where Tony just gets full-blown evil here, like full-blown calloused. Tony then decides that he's going to go off on a vacation because of this to New Vegas. AJ then gets worse. Him and a group of friends beat up a black dude in a racist hate crime just for being black. Because, again, AJ is in this nihilistic, depressive tone of nothing matters in life.
Yeah.
AJ complains to his therapist that he's going to that the world is messed up and that there's no point to it. Because of all again, it's the problem with evil and suffering.
Yep.
Right here, which again, as we said earlier, if anybody wants to understand more of that, because that's a very deep topic to get into, we recommend, William Lane Craig, Frank Turek, Mike Winger's work on that. From a Christian perspective. Tony gets with one of Christopher's ex-girlfriends, which this was just gross, in my opinion. After killing him, he decides to go to one of his ex-girlfriends, but he does end up puking as they're making out because he starts thinking of Christopher.
Yep. And
then there was a very interesting part where, at the very end of the episode, where they're high on ecstasy. Him and Christopher's ex-girlfriend are. They're out in the Nevada desert where near Las Vegas is, and Tony just starts yelling out, "I did it," over and over again while they're out there. While they're out in the desert. So yeah, it was a very weird scene. That's how the episode.
No, he has guilt.
Yeah, he has guilt, even though he didn't show it in the moment there.
Yeah.
Then we get to episode 19 of season 6, where AJ's depression gets even worse. He complains to his therapist about different religions and all that, and how all of them he believes all of them are farces and all that. Again, the nihilistic themes. He reads a poem titled "The Second Coming." I forgot exactly. I didn't write down exactly what that poem had in it, but the Second Coming had nothing to do about Jesus. It was more of like a nihilistic poem.
Yeah.
Tony fails to come to a compromise with Phil.
And a war starts.
And a war with him starts, yeah.
Here's that scene.
Yeah, disturbing content warning and trigger warning. AJ then decides that he's going to commit suicide while everybody is out the house by...
Yeah, and he ties a bag around his neck, and he puts a weight on it to pull him down.
Yes.
And he jumps in the water. The thing is as soon as he hits the water, his whole nihilism went away.
Yeah.
He starts to realize that life has meaning. And he doesn't want to die.
Yes.
So he starts to try to swim up, but he can't get out. So his time... This scene is hectic because he's got a bag around his face.
Yes.
His time is running out.
Yes.
And that's when Tony comes around the corner and sees him. And it's the only time I will say that he truly showed a fatherly figure here.
Yes.
Because he took off running with every bit of his clothes on and just jumped straight into the pool.
He had a 3-piece suit on and jumped into the pool with a 3-piece suit on,
and tried to get him out. And he fails multiple times. The scene goes on for like 5 full minutes of him trying to get him out.
It's an uncomfortable, sad scene. And then Tony actually consoles him. And shout out to the actor of AJ, because that was a realistic cry.
Yeah.
When he got him out of the pool. It was very, very sad scene. But AJ then gets admitted to a mental hospital because of that.
Yeah.
And,
not the same one Junior went to, hopefully.
Yeah. We didn't get a scene where, Meadow and her fiance is who this is at this time now, are at a restaurant. And one of Phil's guys, Coco...
Oh, no, yeah. He comes in and starts making very nasty advances on her.
Very nasty jokes about it. She goes and tells,
Tony.
Well, Carmela, Tony comes home and, ask her, and she's reluctant to tell him because she knows what he'll do. But she eventually tells him, and, Tony, enraged, goes and finds Coco at a bar and, does what's called curb stomping.
Yeah.
Which is where you put somebody's head on the side of a curb and then you stomp on it. Well, he does that he does that on the bar, the edge of the bar.
Yep.
It's a very brutal scene. But this causes Phil to just completely, completely decide to refuse to negotiate with Tony. And this is where, an entire war with Phil starts. Tony tells Dr. Melfi that he believes that there is something else other than this life, which is a weird interest. It was interesting.
It's written on everybody.
Yeah, because it's written on everybody. God's law is written on everybody. God's fingerprint is written on everybody.
Yep.
Everybody, we all long for something better.
Yep.
No matter how evil we are, any of us are. Like Tony is very evil, but he still longs for something better. We then get to episode 20 of season 6, where Silvio strangles a Soprano soldier for negotiating with Phil's family. I forgot exactly who it was. But Silvio goes to lures him into a place and then strangles him. With a wire. Meanwhile, Phil then makes plans to take out the entire Soprano family. He wants to take all of them out.
Yeah.
AJ, while he's in the mental hospital, recognizes a fellow student that he, from school named Rhiannon.
Yeah.
However you say her name is Rehannon.
Yep.
Rhiannon. I'm just going to say that. Also, when Tony and Carmela go to meet AJ in the mental hospital here, he's playing Halo 3.
Yeah.
I like that. That was good, because that was when Halo 3 came out.
Let's give an immature game to a kid who's dealing with acts of violence anyway.
Yes. But he gets discharged from the mental hospital. Dr. Melfi gets into a conversation about psychopaths benefiting from therapy.
Yeah, this is where she realizes that Tony's actually just been leeching.
Yeah, this is where she realizes the reason why she's got nowhere with Tony is because
he's just leeching.
Yeah. The psychopaths apparently benefit from therapy, and she starts feeling guilt for helping Tony. On their last, they didn't have one last therapy session where she finally stands up to him and fires him as a patient.
No, he walks in and starts talking, and she just goes, "F you."
Yeah, basically.
I don't care.
Yeah. And sends him out and decides not to help him anymore. FBI agent Dwight Harris tells Tony that his life may be in danger, that he may need to flee because of Phil and his men.
Yeah.
And Tony
don't care.
Tony thinks he can take Phil on himself, but Bobby unfortunately gets shot and killed while he's in a model train shop.
Yeah.
Poor Bobby. Bobby is a tragic character in this entire show. He was a good-hearted dude that needed to get out of this life.
Yeah.
Silvio then gets shot at while he was leaving the Bada Bing. He gets hospitalized. Tony then tells Carmela and AJ that he's going into hide. Well, no, he sends them away.
Yep.
And then he also goes into hiding at some abandoned house somewhere. But before he does this, AJ is then in the bed, depressed again, and then he whines and complains that having to leave the house is making him more depressed. In which Tony then gets mad and just drags him out of the bed.
Yeah. And
tells him to get his clothes on and get out. Tony then goes into hiding to escape Phil after that, because after what Tony did to his guy, one of his henchmen, Coco.
Yeah.
Phil is not reasoning with him whatsoever.
No. Think Tony's gonna reason with him after Bobby's dead?
No.
Silvio's been shot?
Yeah, none of them are. No,
this is war now.
We then get to the series finale, which is the episode 21, final episode of season 6, series finale, where Tony is getting updates from the FBI, from Dwight Harris about Phil's whereabouts. AJ, aggravated by a conversation Polly has at a dinner, says that life is but a dream, and goes on a rant about less fortunate people. So, AJ AJ needs to read more stuff than just nihilism and absurd.
Unfortunately, a lot of schools, that's all they teach.
Yeah. And but yeah, he goes on a rant about less fortunate people and how the world is messed up because, and what he starts talking about how like the food they're eating and the stuff they're enjoying, it's like destroying other people in the other parts of the country and all that, and it's like, buddy, newsflash, there's stuff you're doing that is destroying other people as well, and like this, unfortunately, this is how corrupted the world is, and this isn't a justification of it.
No. But him just saying this crap to people pulls them away from God.
But it's a good concept about the frustration with evil and how evil doesn't seem to get its justice in this world right now, which we will actually get into discussions about when we do our deep analysis on the show The Wire next, because The Wire has a fantastic concept on that. And because when it comes to that, we as Christians understand that even though it seems like evil isn't getting what it deserves, we understand that it eventually will in God. Like God will eventually take vengeance on it. AJ and Rhiannon try to have sex, which this is... Apparently Rhiannon is 17, and AJ is like 21 or something in this. Yeah. Well, I'm saying, because a weird relationship that would probably...
It is a extremely weird relationship, like I've talked about with another like YouTuber I won't name.
Yes.
Saying that it was okay that his girlfriend was 19 when he was 30.
Yeah,
it's an age gap, but if they waited till she was 18, I wouldn't say anything.
Yes. But they try to have sex with a car
because, elaborating on it, because it's a 3-year gap.
Yeah.
If they waited till she was 18, it would have been fine. I still don't condone the 19 to 30 thing.
Yeah. But I don't know, it's just weird that they thought it was okay for the two characters, even though the actor herself was probably over the age of 18.
Yeah.
She plays a 17-year-old character. And
I still don't agree with that anyway, because like Arya.
Yeah, it's weird. But, it was a weird decision to have them try and have sex.
Yeah, it is.
But the car that they're in catches on fire and explodes. Carmela and Tony have like they argue with them about how dry the ground was underneath them and that you could cook eggs off of that car or something like that. I don't know. That's a weird
giving up on AJ.
Yeah. Tony then has to sit down with little Carmine and Phil and to try and come in with a compromise. But Carmine has a knack for saying the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Yep.
And he makes the tensions even worse, which they all storm out, basically.
Yep.
And little Carmine's like, what did I say? And Tony's just like, you should just keep your effing mouth shut.
Yep.
AJ decides to join the army. So this is where we start to get like the ending to the entire series.
We're not there yet.
Well, yeah, I know, but this is where we get kind of like this is where we get like this is where their lives are heading. Like,
yeah.
So AJ decides that he's going to join the army.
Yep.
Meadow decides that she's going to go into law school. Tony decides that he's going to see another therapist. Meadow also tells Tony that one of the reasons why she's going to law school is because she wants to help Italian Americans. And
unfortunately, that worries me into thinking that what she's actually saying is I'm going in so that I can help the mafia.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's doing the cycle of she's probably going to help mafia.
She's going to help mafia.
Yeah.
I'm betting you AJ's going to join the army to toughen up and then come back as a mafia
probably
leader.
These are like the frayed ends that are open for interpretation that the writers they purposely left it that way so you can kind of,
because if you remember prior Tony was saying that AJ wouldn't be able to handle this life and was going to send him to military school.
Yes. Phil, while he's at a gas station, gets shot.
Okay, you missed it.
What?
So there's actually a scene where they think they found Phil.
Yes.
They actually go in and they shoot a guy who's dressed as Phil.
Yes.
And we later find out that was a decoy for Phil. But unbeknownst to Phil, the FBI agent knew where he was and told Tony. So Tony sent two of Silvio's guys out, and while Phil's sitting there at a gas station waiting for his car to get pumped up, they both pop up in the windows and shoot both of them.
Yes. Yep.
I forget who was with Phil.
And it's a very disturbing scene because you have the kids. He's got babies in the back.
Yeah, he's got kids in the back seat. I'm about 90% sure he killed his wife in the car too.
Yeah. And the car starts rolling.
Yep.
And it runs over Phil's head while the kids are in the back seat.
Yep.
It's a disturbing scene.
It is a very disturbing.
Even though I don't feel any... I felt remorse.
Phil is the same as Ralph for me. I felt no remorse for him.
Yeah.
But I don't condone that.
Yeah. Tony just then decides to visit Junior in the mental hospital for one last time.
In which they, talk about nothing.
What Junior doesn't even recognize him.
No.
Tony has to remind him who he is. And it's a sad ending for Junior because Tony essentially has an epiphany while he's sitting there with Junior that Junior has nobody.
Yeah, Junior has no one.
No wife, no kids. Because Junior gave his life completely to the mob.
Yep.
And what did he get for it?
Nothing
at the end of his life. So...
We did forget to mention, though, that he did end up trying to date a woman at one point.
Yeah.
But it didn't work out.
Well, we mentioned that. Is it the woman that he slams the pie into?
No. Oh. He ends up dating an older woman from...
Oh, true.
That was just coming to check on him.
Yeah. I didn't really write that down. But yeah, it's a sad ending for Junior. And Tony has an epiphany right there. And so he decides to take his family out one last time take his family out at a diner.
Okay, you just spoiled it.
Yes, I spoiled the ending. Okay. So we didn't get the ending scene. The controversial ending scene.
The ending scene that plays out, it's like a good... there's no talking.
Yeah.
It's just music playing while Tony's waiting at a diner trying to call everyone in. Then Carmela shows up. I don't remember.
It's your favorite song ever.
Oh, Don't Stop Believing.
Yes. Totally not the most overplayed song.
I hate that song. But that's playing and then Carmela shows up, and then AJ shows up, and then lastly Meadows shows up.
Yeah. Well, Meadows, for whatever reason, it shows they're having a hard time parallel parking.
Yeah, it just shows a family thing going on. They walk in, they sit down, they order, they sit down.
Yeah.
And for a brief moment... It does seem to focus on a guy behind Tony.
With a members-only jacket.
Jacket, and then it just fades to black.
Yeah, it looks at him, and he looks like he does turn and look at Tony.
He does, and he looks like he's got his hand in his pocket.
Yeah.
So the running theory, and even the director of the show said that the theory that seems most probable is the guy behind him killed him.
Yeah.
And the fade to black was just Tony dying.
Yeah, it was Tony getting shot.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be like what Tony saw in his last moment.
Yep.
Like it just blacks, just nothing, just getting shot.
Yep.
Which, I mean... that's a fitting end for Tony's story.
There was a terrible end for the show.
Terrible ending for the show. In my opinion, this ending was the writer kind of getting a bit too ambitious.
Yeah.
So I think there's one thing that could have made it not controversial. One simple thing. Adding a gunshot sound. Went to black. That would have fixed it.
Exactly. The gunshot sound. If you wanted to go a little harder in it, we could have had him arrested.
Yeah.
Because, an FBI agent literally told him where Phil was, and then Phil's dead. There, you don't need more evidence.
Yes, exactly. It ending at season 5 with both him and Johnny Sack getting arrested would have been a fitting.
Yeah, season 5 would have been a fitting end with that.
Yeah.
But the ending's super controversial. I don't like it.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of how they did it. I do think that him getting shot is a fitting end, though.
Yeah.
But... Yeah, but so it ends with him realizing that he wants to be with his family. His family is who he wants to be with. But he gets, due to his lifestyle, it catches up to him.
Yeah,
He gets shot and killed. So, having a fitting end for Tony. And so, that is our deep analysis from a biblical perspective of the entirety of the Sopranos storyline, where Tony, all throughout this show, struggles with the stress, anxiety, and just lifestyle of his of being a mobster.
Yep.
And that he really, really wishes that he lived another life where he didn't have this stress. And, but the more he went deeper and deeper into that lifestyle, the harder it became for him. The more callous he became, the harder it was for him to just give it up, because if he gave it up, he knew that he'd also have to go to prison for everything that he did. And he didn't want that to happen either. And you have all of these other things of it being a ripple effect, affecting everybody around it.
Yeah,
well. His wife, kids, friends.
It's also a big theme of the cycle of evil. Yeah, because you saw in flashbacks that Tony's dad didn't want him to be in the mafia.
Yeah.
But then he's in the mafia.
Yeah.
And now he didn't want AJ to be in the mafia. Yeah. But AJ, towards the end of season 6, is getting closer and closer to being in the mafia.
Yeah. Yes. And Meadow is probably going to help mobsters.
Yeah, she's probably going to become just like the guy who was helping Tony get out of everything.
Yeah. So yes, the theme of no rest for the wicked. That people who do not live the way that God has set up for us to live, they don't get any rest, because it's written on their hearts, and they can feel that, they know that. But you either again, you're living a completely stressful life and you can't rest nowhere, or B, you harden yourself, which is like the worst place to be, to where you feel nothing, and you end up becoming just an absolute like demon, basically, where you feel nothing and you wreak havoc and do not care about it whatsoever. So. Yeah, that's the running themes on here, and our takeaway from this is we as Christians we know that God's law is good.
Yeah. And
following it is how he created us to go by. That going down these type of lifestyles is not good. It wreaks havoc. It destroys everybody around us. And not only that, it destroys our souls.
No.
I mean, soul is completely just like a rock solid.
No, if you read the Bible where God says that the punishment goes from the parent to the children to the children's children, all of that, that's what this is.
Yes, the consequence ripple down.
He's warning about this ripple effect.
Yes,
Tony's great grandfather was probably the first to sin like this, and now it's rippled straight down.
Yes,
to where it's just a constant cycle of violence.
Yep, and. We as humans, sinful humans, we cannot perfectly follow the law.
No.
But Christ did for us, and for those of us who accept him as Savior, and accept the gospel that he lived the life that we should. He followed God's law perfectly, like we should have, and died the death that we deserve to die, but rose 3 days later, proving that he is God, that he washes away all of our sins.
Yeah.
And we now follow him because of that. And we are free. Those of us that give our lives, that accept the gospel, it's a work of the Holy Spirit. And so we then have the Holy Spirit dwell in us and empower us to then follow God's law.
Yep.
Not perfectly, but because we're not promised to be perfected in this life, but he promised us that we will be perfected in the next life. So yeah, that's the takeaway from this, from the main theme of The Sopranos, in my opinion. It's a fantastic case study of that, of how when you reject and you push God's truth down, the more stress and the more anxiety and the more destructive you're to not only other people, but to yourself is going to become, as we see Tony do throughout this entire show. So yeah, fantastic show. I consider it a masterpiece.
Besides the ending.
Besides the ending, besides the way that they ended it. But yeah. Anyway, what do y'all think? Let us know what y'all's thoughts are down below. Thank y'all for listening to this very long, deep analysis that we went on on these 3 parts here. If you haven't seen part 1 or part 2, then go check those out as well. Hit that like button if you liked it. Hit that dislike if you dislike it. Follow us on Twitter, because I'm not calling it X. Thank y'all for watching or listening. And if you're listening to this while you're asleep, wake up!
You're rude. You know you probably woke somebody up, like, years from now.
Yes, probably. Anyway, thank y'all for watching or listening. We love y'all. God bless y'all, and we will see you.